The winter of 1980 in the United Kingdom was characterized by a biting cold and the pervasive tension of the late Cold War. Amidst this backdrop, an event unfolded in the dense thickets of Suffolk that would challenge the fundamental understanding of aerial phenomena and national security. The Rendlesham Forest Incident, often referred to as Britain's Roswell, remains the most documented and credible UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, encounter in modern history due to the high caliber of military witnesses and the physical evidence left behind. In the early morning hours of December 26, 1980, the routine security operations at RAF Woodbridge were disrupted by an observation that defied standard flight profiles. RAF Woodbridge and its sister base, RAF Bentwaters, were at the time under the operation of the United States Air Force, USAF, serving as a critical node for NATO's tactical air power in Europe. These bases were not merely storage facilities for A-10 Thunderbolt II aircraft, they were high-security installations rumored to house a significant tactical nuclear arsenal, a fact that intensified the stakes of any localized security breach. At approximately 3 a.m., security patrolmen stationed near the East Gate observed lights that appeared to be descending into Rendlesham Forest, a 5.8 square mile area of pine and mixed woodland managed by the Forestry Commission. The initial assessment by the security team, including Airman First Class John Burrows and Sergeant Jim Penniston, was that a civilian aircraft or a military jet from one of the nearby bases had suffered a catastrophic failure and crashed into the woods. Permission was granted for a small team to exit the base perimeter to investigate the potential crash site, a move that would lead them into a confrontation with a technology far beyond the contemporary aerospace capabilities of 1980. As the investigation team entered the forest, the environment began to exhibit signs of high strangeness. Radio communications with the Central Security Control, CSC, at Bentwaters began to degrade, eventually failing entirely as the men moved deeper into the woods. One member of the patrol remained at the forest's edge to act as a radio relay, while Penniston, Burrows, and Airman Ed Cabansack pushed forward on foot. The air was described as heavy with static electricity, and a pervasive, localized mist seemed to envelop the area despite the clear, freezing conditions elsewhere. Upon reaching a clearing, the men did not find a shattered fuselage or burning debris. Instead, they encountered a glowing metallic object of unknown origin. Penniston, the senior security officer on site, provided a detailed description that has become a cornerstone of UAP lore. The craft was triangular or conical in shape, approximately 3 meters in width and 2 to 3 meters in height. It appeared to be resting on 3 telescopic landing legs, hovering roughly 12 inches above the forest floor on beams of intense light. The exterior of the craft was described as a smooth, opaque, black, glass-like material, often compared to polished obsidian. The visual display of the craft was kaleidoscopic. It was topped with a brilliant red light, while the base emitted a steady blue glow. As Penniston approached the object, he noted that it was enveloped in a sickly yellow haze. The most jarring detail, however, was the presence of strange symbols or hieroglyphs etched into the hull. These markings were described as being embossed into the surface, resembling an ancient symbolic language that felt both alien and strangely familiar. In an act that would define his life for the next 4 decades, Penniston reached out and touched the craft. He reported that the surface was warm to the touch, and that the moment of contact initiated a rapid-fire sequence of binary digits, ones and zeros, that flooded his consciousness. The encounter concluded when the craft retracted its landing gear and began to move gracefully through the trees, maneuvering with an agility that ignored the constraints of physical inertia. It eventually accelerated at a phenomenal rate, shooting upward and vanishing into the night sky. When the patrol returned to the East Gate, they were met with confusion and a subsequent order to downplay the events in their reports. However, the morning light brought tangible proof of the intrusion. Investigations conducted after sunrise revealed 3 distinct circular depressions in the frozen soil, arranged in a perfect equilateral triangle. Nearby trees exhibited scorched bark and broken branches at the 20-foot level, suggesting the passage of a massive object through the canopy. While the events of December 26 were initially handled as a localized security anomaly, the phenomena returned with renewed intensity on the night of December 28. This second phase of the incident is arguably more significant due to the involvement of high-ranking command staff. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander at RAF Bentwaters, was informed during a mess hall dinner that the lights were back. Skeptical and intending to debunk the rumors that were spreading like wildfire through the ranks, Holt assembled a team of specialists to investigate the forest clearing personally. Holt's expedition was characterized by a more systematic, technical approach. He brought a micro-cassette recorder to document the investigation in real time, along with a team equipped with a Geiger counter and night vision starscopes. The resulting audio recording, known as the Holt tape, provides an unprecedented, unfiltered look into a military officer's transition from skepticism to awe. As the team entered the clearing where the previous night's landing marks were found, they immediately detected anomalous radiation. Sergeant Munro Nevels, operating the Geiger counter, reported readings of 0.07 milliroentgens per hour, specifically within the 3 depressions, which was significantly higher than the 0.03 MRHR background radiation found elsewhere in the forest. The technical investigation was interrupted by the appearance of a red, sun-like object moving through the trees. Holt's voice on the tape becomes increasingly urgent as he describes the object winking like an eye and moving with jerky, angular motions that defied the laws of aerodynamics. The object appeared to drip a substance resembling molten metal, though subsequent searches failed to recover any physical residues of this material. During this pursuit, the team's portable floodlights, known as light-alls, mysteriously failed to function, as if the energy was being drained by the presence of the UAP. The most strategically alarming portion of the night occurred when the primary object moved to the forest's edge at Capel Green and split into 5 separate white objects before vanishing. Shortly thereafter, 3 star-like objects appeared in the sky, 2 to the north and 1 to the south. Holt reported that the object to the south remained stationary for approximately 3 hours, occasionally beaming down a concentrated stream of light toward the ground. Crucially, witness accounts from the base perimeter indicated that these beams were targeting the Weapons Storage Area, WSA, a highly sensitive zone where tactical nuclear weapons were stored under triple-fence security. The implications of this targeted surveillance were profound. The phenomenon was not merely a passive light in the sky, it demonstrated an active interest in the most potent military assets of the NATO alliance. Holt later noted that his commander, General Gordon Williams, was also aware of the situation, and there were rumors that Williams may have even had a face-to-face encounter with the craft's occupants, though this remains one of the more spicy and unverified aspects of the narrative. What is verified, however, is the state of the animals on a nearby farm, which witnesses described as being in a state of frenzy or ruckus during the craft's presence, suggesting a physiological response to the object's frequency or radiation output. Following the events of late December 1980, a curtain of military secrecy was drawn over Rendlesham Forest. The official stance of the Ministry of Defence, MOD, was that the events posed no threat to national security, and therefore required no further investigation. This conclusion was met with derision by the witnesses, who pointed out that an unidentified craft hovering over a nuclear weapons storage area and beaming down light is the very definition of a security threat. The primary document that brought the case to public attention was the Holt Memo, a formal report written by Holt to the MOD on January 13, 1981. The memo was not initially classified, but its existence was suppressed until it was released in 1983 under the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. The discrepancy in dates within the memo, reporting the first night as the 27th instead of the 26th, has been cited by skeptics to discredit the account, though Holt later admitted to administrative errors due to the 2-week delay in drafting the report. As researchers began to dig deeper into the MOD's files, they discovered a disturbing pattern of information loss. When the MOD finally released its UFO archives in the early 2000s, the files pertaining specifically to the Rendlesham incident were found to be missing. The official explanation was that the records had been accidentally destroyed or lost during an office relocation. This missing file syndrome fueled theories of a high-level cover-up involving both the British and American governments, aiming to hide the fact that their air defenses had been completely bypassed by an unknown intelligence. The political dimensions of the case reached the highest levels of government. Allegations persist that Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was personally briefed on the incident and concluded that the information was too sensitive for public consumption. Rumors suggest she feared that admitting to a UFO encounter at a nuclear-capable base would spark public panic and jeopardize the presence of US nuclear weapons on British soil. This geopolitical sensitivity transformed Rendlesham from a mere sighting into a cosmic conspiracy, where the defense of the realm was prioritized over the public's right to know. Adding to the complexity was the revelation in 2015 that radar operators at Bentwaters had indeed tracked the object. After decades of silence, these retired servicemen admitted that the object was seen moving at speeds exceeding 72,000 miles per hour, performing right-angle turns and instant stops that would be physically impossible for any human-made craft. This confirmation invalidated the MOD's claim that nothing of defense significance had occurred, suggesting that the institutional silence was a deliberate strategy of plausible deniability. The Rendlesham incident underwent a radical transformation in the 21st century with the public disclosure of Sergeant Jim Peniston's binary code. For 30 years, Peniston had kept a secret the 16 pages of ones and zeros he had felt compelled to write into his notebook immediately after touching the craft in 1980. He claimed the sequence was telepathically downloaded into his mind during the brief moment of contact with the hull's symbols. When this code was finally subjected to professional analysis, the results were staggering. The binary sequence, when translated via standard ASCII, revealed a cryptic message in English: exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance, eyes of our eyes, origin year 8100. The mention of origin year 8100 fundamentally shifted the narrative from extraterrestrial visitation to a temporal paradox. Peniston now believes that the craft he touched was not from another planet, but from our own future, specifically humans from 6,000 years ahead who have discovered the mechanics of time drifting. This theory posits that the UAPs are actually time machines used by our descendants to monitor the timeline and harvest genetic material to ensure planetary advancement. The code also contained a list of 7 sets of precise geographical coordinates. These coordinates correspond to some of the most ancient and spiritual sites on the planet, suggesting a connection between these locations and the portals used for temporal navigation. Most intriguing was the final coordinate, 52.0942532N, 13.131269W, which points to a location in the Atlantic Ocean southwest of Ireland. This is the exact site associated with the mythical phantom island of High Brazil. High Brazil appeared on nautical maps from 1325 to 1865 and was described as an advanced civilization cloaked in mist, appearing only once every 7 years. The inclusion of a phantom island in a military security officer's telepathic download adds a layer of spicy folklore to the forensic evidence. It suggests that the history of Earth is peppered with temporal intersections where the future bleeds into the past. Skeptics argue that the binary code is a later embellishment, noting that binary strings can be manipulated to say anything if the right encoding scheme is applied. However, supporters of the code's legitimacy point to the fact that it reportedly predicted a 12-digit universal constant, the fine structure constant, that was not determined by physicists until 2019. nearly 40 years after the incident. The final narrative arc of the Rendlesham Forest Incident focuses on the biological and social aftermath. While the spicy theories of time travel and nuclear interest dominate the headlines, the most grounded reality of the case is found in the physical suffering of the witnesses. John Burroughs, the security officer who spent over 45 minutes in close proximity to the craft, developed severe heart complications and medical anomalies that haunted him for decades. Burroughs' battle for medical recognition became a landmark case in UAP history. After years of government stonewalling and missing medical records from his time at Bentwaters, his legal team used the declassified Project Condign report to prove that the MOD was aware that UAP radiation could cause biological injury. In 2015, the US Veterans Association, VA, finally settled with Burroughs, granting him full disability benefits. This was an unprecedented admission. Essentially, the US government legally acknowledged that a service member had been physically harmed by a UFO encounter. To counter this weight of evidence, various prank theories have been proposed. Kevin Conde, a former USAF military policeman, claimed in 2003 that he had staged a practical joke with his police car to frighten a jumpy guard. He reportedly put red and green filters on his spotlights and drove in circles on the runway. However, this explanation fails to account for the sightings deep in the forest, the radiation, or the events of the second night. Another rumor suggests that the SAS, Special Air Service, pranked the American airmen with a weather balloon and flares in retaliation for a previous security drill failure. But this theory is widely dismissed as a hoax within a hoax designed to muddy the waters. The strangest rumor associated with the forest involves the sighting of a bear-like creature standing 9 feet tall. Reports from the local Evening Star newspaper in 2009 noted that visitors to the forest still encounter anomalies, including a creature with a foul stench and roaring noises. While likely a misidentification of the forest's muntjac deer, which are known to bark like dogs and scream like women when alarmed, the monster legend adds to the forest's reputation as a portal where standard reality does not apply. Today, Rendlesham Forest is a site of pilgrimage for UFO enthusiasts. A UFO trail has been established by the Forestry Commission, complete with a replica of the triangular craft based on Peniston's sketches. Yet beneath the tourist-friendly exterior, the mystery remains unresolved. The combination of eyewitness military testimony, physical radiation readings, radar confirmation, and a legally recognized medical injury creates a body of evidence that no lighthouse or police car prank can fully erase. The forest keeps its secrets, but the eyes of our eyes from the year 8100 may still be watching the high-security bunkers of Suffolk. The Rendlesham Forest Incident stands as a chilling reminder that the defense of the world's most powerful nations is vulnerable to an intelligence that moves not through space, but through the very fabric of time. The airmen of Bentwaters and Woodbridge were not just soldiers in the Cold War, they were the first casualties of a planetary advance that we are only beginning to understand.